Just a very small note on this week's show. We actually recorded this on Sunday, 2nd of July. Some of the free agent signings changed since that time, and obviously there's been a lot more action. Does that mean that this show won't hold any value? Absolutely not. A lot of the stuff we talk about is still 100% relevant and still nuanced. So just, keep that in mind. It's basically a week old now, and so much has happened. Other than that, really, I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome, everybody, to episode 93 of the You Can't Comp This NBA podcast. I am Russell Gibson, and I'm here with Lachlan Blunt. Lachlan, welcome back.
Hello. Thanks for having me again, mate.
It's a pleasure. And Adam is unfortunately still away this week, but hopefully he'll be back on board very, very soon. So let's get straight into it.
I'm looking forward to having Adam back as well, mate, because I'm sure that he is missing you very, very much, mate.
Yeah, look, he'll be back on board very soon. Yeah, let's get into it. Ricky Simpson, we did a segment about this guy a couple of weeks back where he made his own man cave. And the thing that really took my attention was his little stash of sealed products. So I just wanted to give a bit of an update. I've actually just got back from a little family holiday, and at this shopping center, they had all this super cheap sealed product. It was like $20 a box, $15 a box. It was FIFA product, but still, I picked up a whole bunch of stuff. So I put some onto my shelf over there. I picked up a box of Prism Retail. Off eBay, I got a Revolution hobby box, and that's it for the minute. But I'm really, really enjoying the idea of walking past packets that are just sitting there ready for me to open. So I'd love to hear other people's feedback about this. If they do, just keep sealed product on hand to sort of have a sneaky open every now and then. The only thing I'm probably going to do is I'm going to shift it to the other side of my office so that I don't walk past it every single time and sort of have that temptation there. I have to take that extra few steps to the other side of it. Other than that, it's been an awesome project to work on.
You have a lot more self-control than me, mate, because I can see him in the background and I'm tempted to jump through your screen and rip them myself. I can't help myself.
So if you
I
have
no
sealed, you just rip them,
self-control.
do you, man? Yeah, right. Okay.
I have
Yeah.
no self-control, mate.
Oh,
I
I
think I
love
could
the.
never flip sealed like people that do it. Good on yous because you just have way more self-control than me. Because I just even holding it on hand, it get the jitters, mate.
I love the the slow pull of it, like opening one packet a day. I really like that. I find that definitely stretches the enjoyment out for me. Yeah.
I think once I told myself you open half now and then half at the end of the week or something,
Yeah.
and I got
Yeah.
halfway through and I didn't pull anything good, so I just ripped the rest there and then, and it didn't matter in the end.
The second piece of news from this week is from slabd.com.au, and Khalil is a friend of the show, so this is not a paid advertisement, but definitely something that caught my eye this week on Instagram. So, and Khalil spoke about this a really long time ago on the show, and he's finally got it up and off the ground. So he's offering an encapsulation service, which is basically it looks exactly like a PSA slab, and you send off the cards to him. He'll put that into the slab and then bring it back, and then it's not graded. It's basically just like putting the card into a one touch. So his fee is $13, and that includes return postage back to you in a bubble mailer. But I think it's a really good service that isn't offered in the market. I really think he's filled a space in the hobby in a really clever way. So you're not having your card graded by some company that you've never heard of before, and no one wants to purchase it once it's in the slab. It is better than a one touch. I think the aesthetics of it is really good. Is this specifically for me? I don't think so. I think this would probably appeal more to kids, to be honest. I think maybe not kids, that's not the right word. Maybe younger collectors. I'm quite happy with my cards in one touches, to be perfectly honest. But in saying that, I still think there's some good ideas in the hobby, and this is just one of those good ideas that definitely fills a space in the marketplace. What's your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I quite like it. I do like the idea that the same as PSA, and they say that they stack and fit perfectly with them, so that's always handy and good to have.
They're probably the same slabs, man. Like,
Yeah, that's quite
people
smart.
that make dodgy slabs buy them from somewhere, so I'm assuming they're out there and available, right?
I do remember HGA or whatever, the other grading service, they did an encapsulated one there for a little bit, and I think they got some flack back about it. But I think if you compare a price of a one touch, what most times you're paying $5-6 for a one touch, yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
about
to
right.
get your
Yeah.
car graded and sent back, slab, sorry, and sent
Yeah,
back
it's
to you
not
for
graded. So not graded. Yeah. So
I mean, it's a slab for $13. You
yeah,
if you want it encapsulated, the car ain't leaving anywhere. I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it's quite a good idea. Just aesthetically, if the label does it for you, that's probably the only thing. Especially if you want to display it, I would say.
just holding your thought on that. So you were talking about a grading company that was criticized for that. And the reason they were criticized is because it looked too much like the cards that did have a grade on it. And that was somewhat misleading. Whereas I
Yes.
think the point of difference here is that you can look at Khalil's graphic on the top of it. There is no way you can ever A, confuse it with something else, and B, think that it's been graded. And I actually think that's, for transparency, I think that's really important because it's just really obvious that it's that. The only look, I'm not big on branding. Like, for example, I hate it when breakers put the stickers onto the one touches. That's probably like, Adam talks about regulating the hobby. If I had like my way, that would be the thing I would say. Like, these breakers doing that, it just like really grinds my gears. So I think, that's the flip side of that too. If there was maybe like a plain label or something like that, or an option. There's a grading company out there that also offers that sort of customized label. Maybe that's something
Yeah.
else like down the road Cleo could look into too. You could sort of select option A or option B.
Maybe
Anyway,
I don't know. I guess the logo just looks big as well because you're so used to just having all the small little words, card number, set,
yeah.
all that kind of stuff in there. So I
And all
guess
the
that's something
labels
that
just
could.
rip each other off, don't they?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think it's a good idea. Like I said, if you want to keep your card safe and it's for you to keep in your collection, then I don't see a problem with it at all. Go nuts.
Yeah. Alrighty, this next bit is a Instagram question from Joel Butler. So I think the future of cards is what I'm interested in the most as a new collector over the last 12 to 14 months. I've constantly heard that Fanatics are involved with new products and stuff like that, Panini losing contracts, etc. As someone that's gone hard into the hobby over the last year, I'm so confused where we will end up in 3 years down the track, if that makes sense. Apart from that, you guys cover all the juicy content, so I'll keep sure to listening. Thank you, Joel, for listening. We really appreciate it, and thank you for the kind words, and thank you for the question. I think this is a very open-ended, broad spectrum question. So I'll let you lead with this, man, because I'm definitely keen to hear your thoughts about it.
I might actually had similar thoughts as well. I think someone that kind of came in at the Panini era of cards, always been a bit confused on, upper deck or tops, what, to go for. Wasn't quite up to speed with it as much. And so I think there's a bit of that worry going into this new product. I'm interested to see how certain products hold up when that they no longer exist anymore, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
if if they still have certain products still have if I think your things like Prism, for example, like that's still the silver rookie card. Do you know what I mean? Just because their Fanatics are making products in 2026 doesn't mean that the Luca rookie is not a proper rookie anymore because that's the year it was made. That's probably the only concern I would have is certain products or certain cards, maybe if the value is held because of the comparable. Say you have a non-rookie auto of a player and one of the vets that you like. Will the price hold up? Let's say Giannis, you've got a Panini National Treasures auto. Is the price going to be held up as comparison to the new Tops or Fanatics autographs that do come out?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. And, so why don't we roll back to our thoughts about last week, okay? So, and this is probably something we didn't cover well enough last week, was about the LeBron James no longer being exclusive with Upper Deck.
Yeah.
So what is the implication on that, on the value of his autographs that are out there in the population already? So if he starts signing in all these new products, what is the implication for that going to be? I
Might
don't
be
think
some
it
sort of pop,
I don't
yeah.
think it is going to tank his value, because I think the demand for LeBron autographs is there. And if anything, I think it's just going to increase the price on PYT prices for Lakers in breaks, right? The thing
Oh
that
yeah.
I think is going to be negatively affected is maybe going to be his lower end autographs. So, for example, his high school stuff. I do wonder if, so just say you've got 2,000 to spend. So now you can get an NBA official uniformed LeBron James, or you can get a high school autograph. You probably would go for like the official one. So I reckon maybe that's like the implication where it would be. And then in terms of, where do we keep going in the future? Like, so are you talking about, say, Steph Curry? If he keeps signing for another, 5 or 10
Yeah.
years, what will happen to his autographs? Look, I think the people who are, very well established in the hobby would generally hold value. Like you
He
look at,
gimmicks, yeah,
look for Larry Bird, who's still signing, 20 years after his career. Those autographs
seems to be
still,
in every product as well.
yeah, they still go for $300, $400, $500, So I think maybe that's an optimistic, way to look at it. A pessimistic way to look at it will be to say, well, maybe they are going to flood the market and then, too much will come off. But probably my feeling about that is the people that will be affected there are like the medium prospects and the lower end prospects where the bottom of the market will just fall out. So an example of what we talked about in the last episode was Dyson Daniels getting an on-card autograph for $10.
Mm.
Some people, that's where their value will sit. Yeah. And look, I don't think that's a bad thing. So my response to this, Joel, is that I think you've come into the hobby at a very dynamic time, and in that we've just come off this extremely large high, and now we're sort of 2 years post that, and probably coming into the hobby the last 12 months is that whether you know it or not, I can't say it like that. My perception of the last 12 to 14 months is that now my money is just going a lot further. So in terms of buying sealed product. So the classic example at the moment is Select Hobby. So Select Hobby at the moment is selling for ballpark around 600 Aussie dollars, whereas that was selling a couple of years back for $1,300 to $1,500. And ironically, at the moment, so I went into a case break with Brian Forsman in the last week, and the breaker was talking about how that at the moment NFL Select is actually more expensive than NBA. And so for me, that is completely upside down. The resale on NBA is, I'm sure, not on every single card, but much better than NFL. But actually, NBA at the moment, there's some really good value to be had. So, that's how I sort of feel about it at the moment. I just think at the moment, things are a little bit, I don't want to say undervalued. That's not the right word, but there's just a bit more value happening at the moment. It also depends when you bought in, because if you bought in, say, 2 years ago, you might be a bit upside down on some cards though too. So I can't spin this all the way like positive, because people have had some losses in this too in the last 12 months. So where are we going to end up in 3 years? Look, I think what we're going to see is in 3 years, Fanatics having a very secure hold on how cards are distributed and how cards essentially are opened up. And again, we spoke about this on the last episode where they want bricks and mortar shops to hold stock in particular ways. You spoke about how they even display it on shelves and how people break it. So I think that's something that's going to be, very different. And I think everything is going to very much have the Fanatics brand or flavor on it. So look, I'm very optimistic. I know I haven't been overly ecstatic about Fanatics taking over because I actually love Panini and what they've done for the hobby. I think that, they've done some, really bad stuff, but also they've done more good than what we could ever, imagine. So I think actually Fanatics has big shoes to fill, and hopefully they'll do really well. Any
I think it
closing
comes
thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it comes back to as well, like depending on what situation you find yourself in the hobby. Maybe more uncertain times, like you said, for a brick and mortar owner. Definitely with all these new
Regulations, I'd be
resale
scared.
for
Yeah.
regular, yeah.
Yeah.
But as just if you were just a general collector, even maybe like a little bit, like to sell a card here or there to maybe pay for a break spot or pay for a nice new card. I don't think you should have any worries. I think you've always said, as long as you're buying something that you actually like and enjoy, then what does it matter if it's Upper Deck, Panini, Tops?
Yeah.
If you enjoy the card and like the card, you shouldn't have nothing to worry about
Yeah.
in the end. But if you bought something, I guess, overpriced, then you worry about, making those bigger purchases. I could understand the worry there.
And maybe that's the point that we miss, isn't it? Maybe the important
Mm.
thing here is that the product is licensed. So long as you're buying officially licensed stuff, like, for example, Leaf, that for me is a complete stay away because it's not licensed. It's literally just a piece of cardboard with, maybe a signature on it and like the picture of a player. But I think without that official licensing, I'm not that that doesn't make me froth at all. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
I think if you look at since Panini's had when did Panini take over? It was like, I believe 2012 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
If you look at that, there's still plenty of tops cards and stuff like that. That's still for real, Chrome, Bowman's Chromes, all those different stuff that sell for all the older products that still sell really good, even though Panini took over.
The important cards are still important. That would never be
Yeah.
taken away. Yeah. So the fantastic insert sets, the rookie cards, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't change. No, definitely not.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I just assumed that would be said, but no, you're 100% right to actually put that into words. Yeah, well said. Yeah. Alrighty. So for the rest of the episode, what I was hoping we would do is just talk about free agent signings or trades, and then just sort of talk about the implications of what that's going to happen to on the hobby scene. So I think for me, the one that I want to start with is Marcus Smart, because I think he was almost like Mr. Boston the way that he played, just all heart. And I think that that team made a pretty tough decision in terms of changing out the dynamic of the team, and they moved him onto Memphis, which I think Memphis needs good people in the locker room in the worst kind of way, and getting rid of Dylan Brooks was the right thing to do, and bringing in Marcus Smart, Patty Mills, and also Derrick Rose is what they've now consequently done. I think that's really important. Unfortunately, for his card value, I'm a little bit concerned for that, because I think that he can still share the backcourt with Jar, but I think his minutes are going to be somewhat limited when Jar does come back. And also just in terms of market share, Boston is a significantly bigger market than what Memphis is. So this now becomes a PC only thing for me. The prospecting game on Marcus Smart for me is dead, basically. That's how I feel about this. So yeah.
Yeah, I would say something similar in that sense that I think that's kind of over. He'll fit in well, and it hopefully will change a bit of the dynamic problems, obviously, or the young crap that seems to be happening in Memphis.
Yeah, I think that's
Derrick Rose,
exactly why they've brought him in there, just to smash heads. Like, let's keep it
well,
real. Yeah.
Jar's resting his trigger fingers for a few games, so they need a replacement point guard to help out.
Yeah.
Um,
It's nuts,
so
isn't it?
I think leaders like that will be good for that locker room. So, but yeah, as far as hobby wise for Marcus Smart, probably PC only, like you said.
Yeah. So his base PSA 10 is $54 at the moment. The silver, there's actually no data sales on it. Card ladder values it at 135 though. So I think if you're buying that for PC, that's beautiful. $50, $135. That's two price points. That's perfect. If he's your boy, yeah, jump on board. I've got no problems with that at all. Nothing.
And he kind of fits that old school more mentality of the Memphis, the grit and grind kind of style.
Yeah. I
And
think he's going to be
with
awesome there. Yeah.
defender,
Awesome.
you might be able to slot him, get away with a small lineup with Jar, Bain, and Smart all on the floor. Him just as the defensive harasser, but we'll see.
Yeah. The next one is Kristaps Porzingis. So he was also part of that trade. He's now going to be the starting big man in Boston. And I think Porzingis is the perfect NBA center at the moment. He can rebound. He's mobile. He can block shots. He's got shooting range beyond the 3-point line. His current silver PSA 10 is sitting at 175. Wasn't that long ago. He was actually down at 52. So at 52, that is just too delicious to pass up. But unfortunately, that ship has sailed. So I would actually suspect that was around, yeah. So the 4th of June, he started to spike.
4th of June, so okay. Oh, then that's about the rumors started, I suppose.
Yeah. And then on the 21st, it just skyrocketed, went up to 150.
All the people that sold their Marcus Smart cards would have invested in some Porzingis.
Interesting though, in the last 12 months, he's still down 46%. So do you say, well, he can still get back to that $300 mark?
I think that's just the New York dump. That was him just getting dumped from New York, I think.
So his all-time
That's right.
high, oh my God, is 1,575. Oh, that's
That's some Jordan
heartbreaking.
Poole stuff.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? Look, there probably is still some room to move there, but again, I'd rather be buying that at 50 than 150.
Yeah,
I'm still
I
going to
think
say this is a buy.
yeah.
It's tough, but
What
yeah,
what's the pop on it?
157.
So it's low. That's low. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's not bad actually. And but he's going to be the third. That's for sure. It's Brown and Tatum, then him. But
I
I
think
guess
going
they
to that.
needed to replace Horford. Horford is just getting a bit too old to do it for 48 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. I still think that Boston market matters, particularly when it comes to hobby wire. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's good. Alrighty, Damian Lillard is requested a trade. So
So
where do you sit with Lillard? Are you a Lillard lover, hater?
well, I don't think it's kind of hard to hate Lillard. So I wouldn't say I hate him. I don't think I'm an overly lover of Lillard. I think he's an amazing basketball player. I'm a bit confused by his career choices. Sticking around and saying you're going to stick around at Portland and then randomly just leaving now when you had opportunities to probably leave a couple of times.
Yeah,
Um, but obviously it's got something to do with this Scoot Henderson thing as well, I guess. And the direction they're obviously wanting to try and go young, so maybe it's something that works out best for both of them to go in that direction.
Portland has actually drafted remarkably well from where they sit. They've never had,
Mm.
the number one pick. I mean, Lillard is a good example of that. McCollum was a really good pick. Simons was a really good pick for them, and,
And
and actually, Shaden
they got
Sharp.
Keegan Murray's. They drafted Keegan's brother. Chris Murray, Keegan Murray's brother. Yeah, they drafted him, and then they drafted the French kid that played in the NBL last year, Rupert. Apparently, that he was meant to go a lot higher than 43. He went 43rd or something. Apparently, he was touted as a first rounder.
Yeah, look, they're really good at making just good picks, and look, I think Scoot fell to them. I don't think that was engineered,
No, no,
and
I think
so
they weren't expecting Scoot.
yeah. But does that make Lillard request a trade after all these years? I wonder if it's more circumstance than anything else, where he's kind of like, look, I actually wouldn't mind to win a championship. But you look at his salary for the next couple of years, that is an absolute albatross. That might actually end up being one of the worst contracts in the league just for the fact of, the size of it. The flip
And didn't he
side to
just
that,
sign it last year? Hey, didn't he just re-sign it last year?
I think this is the second of 4 years of his deal. Yeah.
Yeah,
The only, saving grace might be is that the cap is gonna go up significantly in the next couple of
yeah.
years with the new TV deal, so maybe it's not gonna be that bad, but geez, yeah. So you ready for another crazy stat? All-time high on Damian Lillard's silver PSA 10, 9,840, is currently sitting at 2,190. So this for
Jeez,
me
near
is like
10 grand.
yeah, that's wild, right? This for me is the Jokic thing all over again. So if he can win a championship, this is an absolute no-brainer. So for me, this is a hold at the moment. If you enjoy that sort of higher end prospecting, look, I think this is actually an excellent buy because
Yeah.
he'll be a Hall of Famer. I don't think that's in dispute. But if he can add a championship to his resume, that's when it really becomes a long-term purchase that will just sort of sit there and progressively go up, which I think is what now Jokic is. So yeah,
I think it's definitely. It just depends of how they get the trade done. If they do, rumors is the Heat, obviously.
that's the team he's requested to go to. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So how that works out now, but it'll be interesting. That's a nice dynamic, or sorry, a triple threat there that they have of Bam, Jimmy, and Dame. That'd be quite hard to stop,
yeah,
especially considering they made it to the finals with a bunch of undrafted.
definitely. That's a massive talent upgrade, and
Mm.
from because I'm assuming Hero is going to be in the trade.
I think so.
So
I've
if you're
heard
turning
that's one of the bigger pieces. Yeah,
no
because
Hero into that, well then that would be fantastic. Yeah. Alrighty, the
it'd
next one on the
be
list
interesting.
is Chris Paul. So Chris Paul has been traded to the Golden State Warriors, and for me, the irony of this trade is that if they didn't select James Wiseman and they took LaMelo Ball, they'd be in the exact same situation in terms of asset management, but you'd have a younger player who's also being paid significantly less. So that's for me what I love about this the most. It just feels like something they should have done, you know, the Wiseman draft year. And it also stinks a little bit to me too that Bob Myers left and then they re-signed Draymond and trade for Chris Paul. I wonder if this was the classic, he wanted to go in one direction, but ownership wanted to keep the old band together.
Yeah, that could be it, actually. That makes sense.
To me, that's too coincidental that these three things happen in a very short period of time.
Well, I thought the pool one was definitely going to happen. Him leaving, I figured
Yeah.
after
After
the
the
way he went in
punching
the
each other in the
playoffs.
face, like that's over, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, they had to keep, yeah, it's had to get rid of one, keep one, or get rid of both. Realistically, the culture's ruined a bit after that. What
I
it
think
seemed to be, anyway.
that team without Draymond though is toothless.
Yeah,
He's such
yeah.
an important cog
He's
to
the
that team.
he's the dog in that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Do you think he would work anywhere else but Draymond? Do you think like his game would really translate as well as it does?
I think on the right contract price, he would be perfect on any team.
Any team, yeah.
Yeah. At 25 million a year, I think is still a little bit up on him because of his declining athleticism. But in saying that, that actually seemed to me a pretty reasonable extension for him. So I didn't mind that.
Sometimes you got to pay for previous stuff done,
Yeah. Yeah,
not
definitely.
what he's going to do, kind of what he's done.
Yeah.
And I guess it come down to Steph. If Steph wanted him to stay, then they're going to keep him.
Yeah. So Chris Paul's 2005 Topps Chrome Refractor PSA 10 last sold for 1,560. All-time high on that is 6,900. Look, I would say Chris Paul has been one of the most hobby irrelevant superstars maybe we've ever had. And is this now going to be the time to jump on board because he is actually going to trend up and go somewhere? That for me is like the thought that I really can't get out of my head. Am I interested in participating in this little game? Absolutely not. I could care less about Chris Paul's hobby value, but does that mean that it's not going to happen? I think that's something you can definitely take a risk on if you enjoy that higher value sort of, prospecting.
Even sometimes like with the prospecting, I don't mind doing is if the rookie card does seem to be out of range, then numbered inserts or cheaper autos, and I think a Chris Paul auto you'd be able to find for a decent price.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a quick flip at a cheaper option, that's not
Yep.
the worst.
Yep.
I'm just curious to see how he's going to actually work at Golden State. Like, what's the plan for him to start? And
I think he comes off the bench, but I could definitely see them playing Steph and Chris Paul together at some time because last year Clay played the three a little bit. And then every minute that Steph's off the court, I think Chris Paul's going to be on the court. And so that's kind of powerful.
but an extra ball handler maybe as well, like a good one that can set up
Yeah. Yeah.
him. Because I guess you look at it, in the towards the finals, Steph had to play point guard a lot more because we do the screen and we just he would just get doubled. So it became a passer a lot more, especially in that Lakers series. He seemed to be a passer a lot more. And Steph's probably the best off the ball player just as much. So someone like Chris Paul,
Yep.
knowing exactly where Steph Curry's going to be and getting the ball to him, that's pretty lethal. But
I think
injury is always a problem.
injury is going to be a problem. I think offense is going to be fine. That's not the issue for me at all. It's like defensively is how do you work that out, and is it going to be opportunistic or is it just going to be like a rotation thing? But again, I think Steve Kerr is a brilliant mind. I don't think that's, you know what I mean? That for me is not an issue at all. Hey, taking your point from before, Chris Paul Crown Royal Kaboom last sold for $154.
So yeah, that's yeah, and that's something that you can hold on to. It's a Hall of Famer kaboom. Yeah, that's.
That's
Wait,
totally
is it in
fine.
Clippers uniform? Is it in Clippers
2018
No,
Rockets uniform.
it is. Oh,
That's
okay, that's all
Rockets,
right.
yeah. I say
No offense, Clippers
You're not a Clippers
fans.
fan, yeah.
No offense, Clippers.
Cam Reddish, 2 years, 4.6 million.
Plenty upside there, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
Anytime you put on the purple and gold, it adds probably 10% to your name, especially if you're getting court time.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So I'm just gonna say something I've said like heaps of times before. I don't care. I'm gonna say it again. NBA is about opportunity, and this kid is in the right spot. I think he's gonna get opportunity. He's gonna get location exposure, what you just spoke about then. And I actually think this guy is a really talented NBA player, and he's just been in bad situations. That Knicks situation was bad, and for whatever reason, that Hawks situation went bad. The funny thing about the Atlanta Hawks is that despite the fact I'm actually a Trae Young believer, I'm losing faith in that more and more. So let's roll into the John Collins one now, right? Let's sort of segue into that straight away. So you can keep trading people away from the Hawks, but at what point do you then say, well, who is the person who's now left behind and is actually creating all the problems? Is Trae Young the solution, or is Trae Young the problem?
Who's
You know what I mean?
just coach killer?
Yeah.
Coach killer.
Coach
He's
killer, Cam
solid.
Reddish killer, John Collins killer.
Coach
Like,
killer.
yeah,
Yeah.
what's next? So whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that is now the thought that's like creeping into my mind. So John Collins was literally traded for a bag of potato chips, a second round pick, and Rudy Gay.
And they'll probably waive Rudy Gay's contract as well, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
It's
right.
just a caps. They just cleared cap by the sounds of it.
Yeah, that's right. They're definitely trying to do something else. Look, I think that John Collins is going to do really, really well in Utah. Will people care, and will the hobby care? No, they won't. I actually think this is really, really bad for John Collins holders. If you are looking to buy this guy, I don't think this is a buy. I'm I'm really worried about this. So for me, I sort of put John Collins and Bam Adebayo in the same sentence. And in terms of prospects who are sort of, really talented dudes, but hobby wise really haven't done a lot. And yeah, I have a lot of concerns for this, and I'm very optimistic now about Bam Adebayo if I had to pick between those two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just want to just say one more thing before I move on here. Of all the players we've spoke about on episode 93 and 92, Cam Reddish is at the top of my list. I think in terms of him,
And what's his silver going for? I should check that. I'm sure you could pick one up for silly cheap. Maybe not so much now. All the Lakers fans have gobbled him up already.
he's trending upwards already. So he was down to
Yeah.
$22 at one point, last sold for 80. But get this, his all-time high was 540. So there was a lot of optimism around this guy coming out of college. Yeah.
540, that's insane. For a guy that barely got any minutes to even do anything at any of the spots.
Yeah.
No, there's plenty of upside there. I'd say that's maybe not at 80. Yeah.
I think that 80 is going to plateau out a little bit, but if that gets to 200, that's a complete stay away. But at the same time, if you're looking to play that short flip game, I think Reddish is ripe for the picking. And as you can already see, we're a couple of days late. Yeah.
Start price at 18, like you said.
Dylan Brooks, I'm going to slay the Rockets for this. What are the Rockets doing? I was so critical of them last year, just how bad defensively they were. And then to bring in Udoka, I think that's fantastic. That's the right hire. And they've brought in Fred VanVleet, which is, fantastic, a great locker room guy. They're paying him 3 years for $130 million. But to pay Dylan Brooks, who was literally exiled from his last team and behaved the only way I can describe his behavior in the playoffs last year was stupid. I think that's the nicest way I can string that. 4 years, $80 million. We spoke about albatross contracts before with Damian Lillard. That is just a double albatross for me. I don't know what they were thinking on that. So who were they bidding against? Like, why not offer him $40 million?
I was just about to say that agent's done some real good work there because they must have sold him a false something.
Maybe if you're being an optimist, you say, look, the way he behaved is something they can performance manage and it's not going to happen again. And then you get all the good stuff out of him. Look, maybe that's what's going to happen. But
I think it's more incentive based, yeah.
I just can't shake those images of him, with the glasses on and saying I poke bears and all this sort of stuff. Like, it was just so ludicrous.
And then refusing to show up to the media after they
Yeah.
get by 40, and then
Yeah.
you can't talk and then not talk.
Yeah, that's
it's
nonsense.
either a talker or not, man.
So
I kind of get what they're trying to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, they've got no culture there whatsoever at Houston. It's like Doak is maybe someone that he can at least rely on to play some defense, because I give it to Brooks, at least he can play defense.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But the money, definitely not. Yeah, that's a big contract, and like you said, length and the money, it seems a bit crazy to me.
Bananas, yeah.
I guess that no one else really wanted to go play at Houston, maybe.
Maybe that's what it is, right? You have to pay almost like a tax to get dudes to go there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't we do Fred Van Vliet while we mentioned him at the same time? Oh, sorry. By the way, Dylan Brooks, don't touch it with a 50-foot pole. Hobby wise, that's my
Yeah.
buy, hold,
We
sell
didn't
on
even
that one.
we didn't even check the prices.
No, no.
Uh,
Fred Van Vliet,
uh,
on the other hand, I like this a lot. Houston is a bigger market than Toronto. He's going to get a lot of touches. I think this is really good for him. The downside is, of course, he's on a losing team.
and they had to pay big money.
Yeah. Hobby wise, where does this leave him?
We will have more fans than he did in Toronto, probably. I would say. I think you get a bit more traction there,
Yeah.
but here's an opportunity. Like I think we didn't really touch on it with the Chris Paul to the Warriors meant Jordan Poole got traded to the Wizards. And I think, like that, Van Fleet's gonna probably have some big stupid games, and they're gonna try and win as well. In that sense, with a Doka there, you'd assume that they're gonna go try and win. And I think you might see Van Fleet have a crazy 50-point game or something like that here and there. So there could be an option in that sense. He might have a game, but other than that, I don't see it shaking the hobby up too much.
So interesting thing about Van Vliet is that he has no card letter data for like just Prism Silvers. He's only got optic autos. So that makes me think he actually doesn't have a
Doesn't have a
rookie card.
prism, yeah.
Yeah.
Old
So
old Isaiah Joe.
really interesting though is looking just really quickly through some of his sold prices.
I guess he's undrafted. Yeah, that makes sense. So
2016 Immaculate Collegiate card sold for $90. So the general rule of thumb is that, stay away from collegiate. As soon as NBA comes out, you just lose 50% of your cash. This is going to be the exception to the rule. That's a really good sold price. The Optic PSA 9 signature card, which is a sticker, sold for $109. So my take on this is that is going to be a good purchase, and that's going to slowly go up this year. I think
yeah,
I don't think this is something you need to jump onto because it's got the Fruja factor. Like this is Van Vliet is the opposite of that. But is this going to be a good situation for him? He's going to get numbers. He's going to get time. I think yes, yes, and yes. So yeah, I think this values is going to hold. Yeah,
I think it's an interesting one. Like I said, I think you'll get like you said, the minutes. He'll definitely have an opportunity to have one of the, or two of those, you know, um, big stat line games that kind of draw people's attention. You'll know he's had it because you'll see a couple of Van Fleets for sale that same day.
that's it. Yeah. Hey man, I think we've gone pretty long on time. So why don't we do two more? How about we do Max Struess and Halliburton, and then we'll tie this bad boy off.
Sounds good to me, mate.
All right. So the reason why I thought we'd do Max Struess and Halliburton is because these two are the sort of the polar opposites. I don't think there's going to be much hobby love at all for Struess, but I love his game, and I'm like proud of him that he got paid. So 4 years, 63 million. He's going to the Cavs. That's a contract that essentially the Heat couldn't afford. So that's somewhat of they're a victim of their own success. They sort of develop these players, they bring them along, and then they get paid by another team. So congratulations to Max. Congratulations to the Heat. Like I love those sort of San Antonio Spurs teams that really develop teams. Portland really is another developmental team that do quite well, and of course the Heat are just the masters of that. The Heat did get a trade exception out of that. So again, while other teams are playing checkers, they're playing chess. They're going to turn that into something delicious, I'm sure. Max Struess, hobby wise, I don't think there's anything there. The only exception to that I'm going to say is that Isaac Okoro, I don't think has played out for the Cavaliers as they were expecting. They've given that guy a lot of minutes. I think Struess immediately goes there and is playing better basketball than him, just like without even reading any of their sets. So I think he's going to start for them.
They needed the shooting. Like the Cavs were desperate for the shooting. Their outside shooting's just not quite there. And
Yeah,
not saying Donovan Mitchell's a bad shooting, but overall as a team, their 3-point shooting just wasn't there. They didn't have enough spaces, and I think he's a great addition.
yeah, yeah. It just fits them perfectly. The need is right. And also to the age timeline, I think that's really important too when you're building a team like the Cavaliers are. They're not going to be winning a championship now. They'll hopefully be winning it in the next couple of years. So Max Struess, let's try and find some Max Struess. Again, nothing at all on card ladder. Alrighty, so there's not a lot of rookie stuff available, if at all, for this guy. So in 2019, he was in College Contenders. So there was an autograph that sold of him for $1.04. So that would make him 2021 rookie. Have you found anything, mate?
I'm just all I could find was a Chronicles order. I don't think it's a rookie, but he was undrafted, so maybe
There's
that's the problem.
Yeah, there's heaps of stuff for 22, 23, but there's nothing for that sort of that rookie year bit. So,
Oh, this is 21-22 Chronicles,
okay.
but
So maybe
that is
that's where you
rookie.
start your search. The other thing I was going to say for this too, we spoke about not buying collegiate stuff, but again, there's always exceptions to the rule. So I think at $3 and $1 for a collegiate autograph for Max Strus, I think that's actually very nice. I think there's definitely value to be had there. And, whether the flip goes on or not, if he doesn't have a rookie card, there's absolutely, nothing wrong with getting something like that at all.
There we go. So I found a recon Destined for Greatness auto, $15.
Okay. Has that got the rookie
Still
logo
buy
on it,
that.
mate?
No,
Yeah.
no, Destined for Greatness, no rookie. Must be something to do with being undrafted, like Van Fleet.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. All right. And then the last one is Tyrese Halliburton. So Halliburton, 5 years, $260 million. So if you need a confidence boost or you need some reassurances that a team is behind a player, which is, really important in terms of exposure, sets being run for them, yada, yada. Halliburton is the big dog in Indiana now. So he's put up some, you could almost argue, all-time numbers already in terms of his efficiency, his assist-to-turnover ratios. That has all just been, off the charts. I think that this contract is, for me, important because it really does give you a lot of hobby confidence in the dude. And this just puts Halliburton, for me, just as a very strong buy. This is not a quick flip. When you're talking about Halliburton, what you're really talking about here is, a long-term, put this into your cupboard, put this into your safe, put it away. I think that's what you're hoping with this guy, is he becomes like an old-timer. So my sort of high-end perspective about Halliburton was that he would be traded to a contender and he'd be the third best player, because I think he's like an Aaron Gordon, but with a much
Yeah,
higher, which a much higher ceiling than that. But if they're paying him $260 million, maybe my assessment on this guy is going to be, very wrong, and actually he's going to be a slower Dwayne Wade. Yeah. PSA 10 silver last sold for $208. Would I like a Giddy at $200 or a $208 Halliburton? All day, every day, I'm taking Halliburton. That's
I think you're right there as well. I would
that's
bet that
wild.
low
That
as
is
well.
wild. Yeah, that
Yeah,
is that
I
is
wasn't
low for me.
expecting that when I put that up as well. I pulled it up and was quite shocked. I was
Yeah,
thinking more 350 probably.
yeah,
Yeah, last good. So yeah, I got a low of 211. That's the low, yeah, 211. That's insane.
yeah,
283, yeah. Now, congratulations to him. He's deserves that contract for sure, and good on the Pacers for actually paying the kid to stay there.
yeah, yeah. That's it.
I actually my guilty little pleasure is probably the Pacers. I don't know why. I've always been a massive Reggie Miller fan. I'm a Lakers supporter, but I'm mainly just a basketball supporter, so I don't get too caught up in being just, supporting my own team because I just love basketball that much that I watch everyone and anyone play. But my dirty little secret last year was watching the Pacers play. I couldn't get enough.
So my take on that, though, that is not a dirty little secret, because last year they played a very entertaining brand of basketball. They
Yeah.
played fast paced. They played in the open court. They played in space, and I would actually say they played very unselfish basketball.
No, I actually quite enjoyed it, and just
Yeah.
all of them. I always kind of had a little soft spot for Miles Turner. I don't mind Miles Turner. I thought he might have turned out a bit better than he kind of has. I don't think he's bad by any means, but maybe higher ceiling. I thought.
Yeah, I agree with you on
But
that.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
but Benedict Mathurin, I'm enjoying watching him play, and
He's a beast,
I
that
think
kid. Yeah.
he hit the rookie wall, and I'm excited to see he played this year. But yeah, Pacers have always been my second little team that, and with Halliburton there as well, you can't not like him
Yeah.
because he's a likable guy as well. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I watched a bit of him over the All Star weekend, and just down to earth, nice guy, and seems
Yeah.
like he's got his head screwed on, and
Yeah.
he got paid in accordance to it by the looks of it.
He's not going to be on Instagram with guns, that's for sure.
God, what's their suspension in the end? Was it 25 games?
25 games, yeah. Yeah.
Silly,
Which
silly, silly boy.
which under the new CBA rules him out for all the
Yeah.
awards. Yeah, which
So
I think was
he's
strategic. Yeah,
so he misses out on all the NBA page boosts and all that stuff.
yeah. Alrighty, man. I tell you what. Why don't you have the final say or the final thought on today's pod? Because I can't thank you enough for coming on. It's been fantastic. It's been fun, and thank you for giving us your time. It's been amazing.
Final thought: it is just as fun talking to a real person about this stuff as opposed to myself in the car listening to it. I will
Yeah,
say that.
yeah,
Also, we'll love to catch up with Adam next time
yeah.
when
Great.
he gets back. But other than that, mate, thanks for having me. And anytime you need a hand, let me know, and I'm more than happy to come on and
Yeah, sweet.
dribble about basketball cards.
Sounds great.
Now I'm
All
going to go tell my wife about the 2 hours that I spent talking about basketball cards. She's going to tell me to shut up.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and have a fantastic day. Cheers.
Cheers.